Hey everybody, we got an awesome show lined up for you guys today. So we are joined by James from the Midwest, who has some pretty incredible stories, both of experiences in the Cecil Hotel, the infamous Cecil Hotel in LA, and a Bigfoot experience as well that he's going to share with us. Hey everybody, and welcome to the Paranormal Portal Podcast. I'm your host, Brent Thomas. Thank you all for joining us, and special thank you goes out to all of you who continue to support the podcast and continue to spread the word. Always remember, if any of you out there have experiences of your own that you'd like to share, feel free to email me at paranormalportalradio@gmail.com. Again, paranormalportalradio@gmail.com, and you too could be a guest on the show. Hey, James, welcome to the show, man. Thanks so much for coming on.
No problem. I appreciate you, allowing me to come on here.
Oh, it's my pleasure. It's always a great honor when people choose to, get in touch with me and to tell their stories to our listeners. But the stories, you and I have been talking for a bit now, and these stories are pretty incredible. And I'm really thrilled that you're here to talk about it. So where would you like to begin? Would you like to begin with the Cecil Hotel stories?
Okay, so me and my friend, we're going from state to state doing shows. And we had a show booked in LA. And so the cheapest place to stay was the Hotel Cecil. And at the time, they were renovating it to stay on Main. And my friend who I do music with, we got the same room because they're like two beds, one room, two beds. It's old style, like the bathroom, the shower is down the hall. And so we checked into our room, and California being a medical state at the time, we were smoking, but we didn't have any, I'll just leave it at that. So we were smoking. And, we heard screams coming from the room next to us, and we just kind of shrugged it off. But see, the crazy thing about it is when we checked into the room, there was a 6-pack of Bud Light, and there was 2 fists. One was Smirnoff vodka, and the other one was some kind of flavored vodka or something like that. And we thought maybe just, hey, dude, somebody looked out for us and thought we might want to drink or, whatever, community bar. So, we're sitting there, we're smoking, and the screaming gets louder. And it sounds like domestic violence or something's going on. So, I banged on the wall and was like, hey, shut the, and I used some cuss words. And, the yelling, the screaming stopped for a little bit.
Okay.
And so, we were still smoking. We heard it again. I'm like, man, I'm going to go over here and see what's going on with these people because this is pissing me off. I'm tired of it. So I knock on the door. I say, hey, shut up. I said, I don't want to hear that.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going to do that, go somewhere else or whatever, And you know how you can normally hear somebody walking around in a hotel room,
mm-hmm.
When they're by the door, if you knock on the door.
Right.
We didn't hear nothing. So we thought maybe they got the hint. So we go back into our room and the screaming started again. And I'm like, man, this is annoying. I'm tired of this. So we go downstairs, we go, and tell the desk clerk, hey, you got somebody in this room next to us. They're screaming and they're being loud, and I'm just tired of it. Can you do something about it? And I was like, okay, sure. So we come back later on that night, and I asked him, I'm like, hey, did you ever get that figured out, that situation with them people, or they leave, or what's going on? And the spooky thing is they said there is nobody in that room. That room is empty.
Oh, wow. Jeez.
Yeah. So, and then another thing when it comes to that, like I was telling you, with Eliza Lam, I checked out of that hotel because I used to frequent the Hotel Cecil because it's downtown LA, and it's cheap, and it's just right in the middle of everything. So I frequented the Hotel Cecil a lot, but I checked out like I said 2 or 3 days before she checked in.
Wow.
And like the security there is sketchy. They got keys to the rooftop. That's all I'm gonna say on that.
Mm.
But yeah, I'll just leave it at that. I'm just not gonna say anything about that. But I know that's how it was. There was a chain on the door to go up to the roof when I was there.
Sure.
So I don't know if that chain. Yeah, I don't know if that chain, they still have it chained or whatever. I heard it was shut down for like renovation, but I don't know. Like I said, I haven't been out there in a while, but yeah, so
yeah,
that's the hotel.
And just a little background
Cecil.
for any of our listeners that aren't familiar with it. That is the location that the Nightstalker serial killer was, and Richard Ramirez. And it's got a really big reputation for being pretty haunted and some weird stuff going around. And the Eliza Lam story is a young girl from, I believe, China that was from Canada. She had been up in Canada, but she kind of took a vacation down to LA and ended up checking into the Cecil Hotel. And there is footage of her acting really, really peculiar in the elevators and stuff. And then she ended up going missing. And essentially, without trying to get too macabre, what happened was people started noticing the water tasting weird. And they basically did an investigation and found the remains of her in a locked water tank on the roof of the building. So absolutely horrible story, tragic, and it's been a mystery ever since. Some people believe that it was something demonic. Other people maybe believe something else. But I find it interesting that the door was chained. And so it makes it hard to understand how this girl managed to get through a chained door and a chained water tank. But anyway, that's where we'll leave that. But very curious. Wow.
Yeah, because I mean, there's no way. I mean, security's got them keys. They don't, but they said she went out of a window, supposedly. I don't know, but yeah.
Okay. Wow. Well, there's things that don't seem to add up real well with that. And, I just, God rest her soul, whatever the situation was. But, it's certainly tragic. So you had the screaming, how often were you at this hotel, would you say? Was it monthly, week, bi-yearly?
I'd say bi-yearly, at least twice a year. Well, twice in 1 year, because, the last time I was there actually is the same year, which is 2012, I do believe, when Eliza Lam was at that hotel. And what I did was I was staying there because I had a girlfriend that lived in Long Beach. So I was just gonna stay out, in LA and go to Vegas, and then from Vegas fly home or take the bus. So that's why I checked out of the Hotel Cecil, because I had my stuff in Hotel Cecil, but I would go to Long Beach to see my girlfriend at the time through the Metro rail, so I had to have a spot, where I had my stuff and, lay my head at or whatever. So, yeah, I remember because what's crazy is I seen it on TV, I think they found her body like 2 or 3 weeks or something like that after, and I seen it on TV and I was like, wow. I'm like, that's crazy. And I was like, I just checked out of there like 3 days before. Wow. Before she checked in.
Oh, yeah. I mean, not that it would have changed anything if you were there or not. It's hard to know, but God, it's just one of those stories that it's like, yeah, I was just there. I was just there. That must have been a bit of a smack in the head, huh?
Yeah. It's too close for comfort. I mean, because Hotel Cecil is a shady. Well, it's down in Skid Row. People that don't know what Skid Row is where the homeless population of LA is. Like, people come out there to, be superstars or whatever, and then they don't make it, so they end up homeless because they spend everything they got. So it's just that neighborhood, where it's at is you know, it's a questionable, sketchy area. Mm-hmm. It was cheap at the time because I think the room was like $56 a night. And this was back in 2011, 2012.
Sure.
So
yeah, you got to do what you got to do. Yeah, for sure. When you're making ends meet, but wow. And then I think they did close it right after that. And then it was renovated, like you said, or they finished all the renovations and now it has a different name. What is it called? Did you say?
Yeah. Stay on Main.
Stay on Main. Okay. Yeah. Well, thank God nothing happened to you out there other than of course, the screaming incident is pretty horrifying too.
Yeah, because it's like something out of a horror movie. I mean, you know, it reminds me of that movie 1308. Like a bunch of spooky stuff was happening, there was no explanations. I mean, we didn't see the stuff, you know, what happened on that movie, but you know, it was like for instance, the screaming. It's like, man, these people got some nerve, and like it was loud. Yeah. You know, I can still hear the screaming, like what it sounded like it like a blood curdling scream.
Wow.
You know, and I thought maybe somebody was over there beating up his girlfriend or wife or something, but like they said down at the desk, they said there's been no one in that room, like at all.
Jeez.
So
that is creepy.
Yeah.
And
I lived it.
Yeah, you lived it. You saw it. I've never experienced that, and thank God I haven't, because I don't know. You know, it's easy to sit on the outside and go, well, I do this or that, but you know, when you're in the middle of it, it's a whole different world. But there does seem to be something with hotels. It seems like every hotel has their ghosts. For, you know, maybe it's people that passed away, maybe it's tragedies that occurred or self-harm or something, but it's just, there's always stories of hotels, and they all seem to have the little kid spirit and the jilted bride spirit. Those seem to be the big ones that repeat all over the place. So, but I do believe that, you know, hotels probably are pretty reasonable places that things probably did go wrong and maybe left that kind of an imprint or a spirit that's stuck there for whatever reasons. But man, that's something.
Yeah.
And I don't know if the Nightstalker, like, he lived there. I don't know that he hurt people there, but of course, maybe that energy just left a real dark shadow over the place, or maybe it was already dark. You know?
Yeah, well, because if you do the history on the Hotel Cecil, and I didn't know this because after all of that, like there was a lady called the Bird Lady that they found her dead. And I can't remember. I think she used to raise pigeons or something like that, but they called her the Bird Lady.
Oh, okay.
They found her dead in one of the rooms. There was multiple.
Was it
go ahead.
Natural causes or?
No. She was I think strangled and raped.
Oh dear God! Wow. Okay.
And, I mean, they said the Black Dahlia used to frequent it because there was a bar, and I think the Hotel Cecil was built. I'm thinking it's the right year because I know it was back in the 1920s. I think it's 1925 or something like that is when it was built. So it was there around that time, and you know, it's not a for certain thing, but they say that she used to, you know, frequent the bar.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, that hotel has a lot of dark history to it.
Yeah, it seems to. And I guess it finally all culminated. I don't know how it is since the renovations, if that's tended to clear it up or if there's still a dark shadow over it. But yeah, I mean, legendarily, it's incredibly notorious place.
Yeah. Yeah. And one thing I'm thinking about too, I don't want to leave out, Jack Unswag or something like that. He was from like Austria or something like that. Maybe I'm not saying his name right, but he supposedly came to America to do a documentary on the police or something like that, the LAPD. I can't remember how it was. And so he was riding around with police and they were showing him, you know, different parts of LA. Well, as soon as they were dropping him off or something like that, this guy was going back to his room and he was killing prostitutes.
Oh, geez.
The same thing he's doing documentaries on the police, like what they deal with. He's going out killing people like later on that night. So it has its share of dark history.
Yeah, it does seem to be a magnet for all kinds of broken things, huh?
Yep, for sure.
Wow, I've never looked into much of the history of that place, but I'm going to have to do that. Maybe I'll have to do a show
Yeah.
on it for sure, and then, we'll probably talk again. But wow, that's incredible. So now, since this, let me just ask you this. Now, this is one instance where you definitely had some kind of haunting experience. Have you had others in other parts of your life, or is this just kind of a one big moment for you?
No, actually, I have because, like I've seen. When I was a teenager, I was at my girlfriend's house at the time, and I couldn't, cuddle with her or whatever you want to call it, because for one, her parents were there, and for two, well, I was too young to be doing that. So I'm sitting on the couch, and I always noticed out of the corner of my eye, it would look like somebody peeking around the corner. And as soon as I would look, there was nothing there. And so one day I told my girlfriend, I said, every time I try to, get a kiss or get close to you, I said, I always see your mom peeking around the corner, and then she'll peek back around the corner as soon as I look that way. She's like, what are you talking about? And then I explained to her what I showed her, or what I seen, and she told me that someone actually died in the house, and it was an older lady, and she described exactly what I seen. She was like, it looked like somebody in white? I was like, and that's when like the hairs just stood up on the back of my neck, because that's what I'd been seeing.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Oh, so she was monitoring the situation pretty closely.
Yep, pretty much.
Wow, because usually when I talk to people that have had an experience of anything, there always seems to be other things that they've experienced as well, and maybe in the other experiences they just kind of chalked it up to, well, I don't know for sure, just dismissed it, but then there'll be this one huge experience that they can't ignore, and then they look back on the other ones and go, yeah, I think there was always something going on around,
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. That's the one that stands out to me the most. But another time is my uncle. He likes to collect antiques and stuff, and he wanted me to put this old wood burning stove online on Craigslist, I think it was at the time, to sell it for him. And when I took a picture, it looked like an orb with a smiling face. And I've showed people that picture when I had it. I don't have it anymore. But I'm like, what do you see? They're like, a stove. I'm like, no, look closer. What do you see? And I'll zoom it in. And they're like, it's a smiling face. I'm like, okay, so I'm not crazy.
And when you say smiling face, it's not like an emoji kind of smiling face. Is it like a face in this orb? Like a human face?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Like, well, I'm not going to say a human face, but it was like I don't know. It's hard to describe it. Almost like the emoji, smiling, but like no facial features. Just like it looked like a smile.
Oh, okay.
Like it's hard to describe, but
sure. I understand.
Yes, it's hard to describe.
But almost like a cartoonish looking face, but obviously there.
Yes. Yep. And like, I don't know, my uncle doesn't believe in stuff like that.
Sure, and those things are hard for some people to get their head around. And orbs can be a tough thing to try to substantiate because they're just such an odd phenomena. And of course, nobody knows really what they are. But I've heard the claims of faces and orbs before, and I find that interesting. It's hard to really quantify what that means. Like, is that the one form a spirit can take that maybe is just a smaller, less noticeable form? But it is interesting nonetheless. No, those are all fascinating stories, and they're really powerful. But your experiences aren't just confined to the ghostly type. You've got some others to tell us about, or at least one major one here to tell us about. So do you mind letting us know what happened here?
Yeah, so this happened in the Lake of the Ozarks. My dad asked me, did I want to go fishing? He wanted to show me some fishing spots
Mm-hmm.
On the river. So I hopped in his truck and we're driving down this road. And in the wood clearing, we seen it would look like teepees. So he kind of slowed down. He was like, those do look like teepees. He was like, oh, just shrugged it off like, oh, those are probably just kids. So
just a sec. Now, when you say teepees, do you just mean the sticks coming up in like a triangle or teepee fashion, but not like a covering on it?
what? Yeah, they just look like a teepee fashion. You know,
like a
they didn't
frame,
have it.
like a frame of a teepee without the skin over the top of it.
Yes.
Okay, gotcha. I just want to make sure that we were talking about that.
Yeah. So, you know, he kind of slowed down and was like, oh, it was probably some kids, you know, or something. It's probably somebody. Well, there's a house down the street. I was like, oh, well, yeah, probably is. So, he cast his pole out and I was getting restless. So, I look into the woods, like the forest or whatever. They were like probably at least 10 feet, maybe 15 feet. I don't know. My dad could tell you better as far as, cause I don't really know as far as what, you know, 15 feet, 20 feet, whatever. So they were in like a 90-degree angle and it almost looked like an entrance to like the woods. But, so that's when, you know, I kind of thought something isn't right. 'Cause my dad was like, yeah, that's kind of weird. So I was starting to walk around and, you know, that's when I seen them big logs. They about, I'd say probably 15 feet, and they were like a 90-degree angle. To me, it almost looked like an entrance to a forest, like somebody had marked or something had marked, because the type of logs they were and the fashion that they were set up, it wasn't from a flood. And where it was at, there was a flood earlier that year. And this was later on in the year because I believe, well, no, it was fall. It was fall time because I remember, because that's when I seen the print. And so I was walking along the edge line of the woods and I seen the teepees. And I'm like, I want to go see what these teepee, shapes, forms, whatever they are. And I wanted to get up closer. Well, when I first stepped, it was muddy. So my second step, it was muddy. It was getting deeper and I'm like, I'm not gonna. So I backed my foot out and that's when I seen the footprint. And the footprint was 18 inches long by like 14 inches wide.
Man, that's a big print. The width,
Yeah.
the width is what's most surprising. It's like, because that's nearly a square.
So, like, you know, I went and I told my dad and he was like, oh, just take a picture of it. So, I took a picture of it and he was like, oh, it might be a footprint. So as he was through fishing, cause I didn't really fish. As he was through fishing, I told him like, yeah, that's where the print was. So he stayed in his truck and I looked down at it. And as I looked down at it, I seen there was hair. So I was like, hey, I said, there's a piece of hair. He was like, hurry up, get in the truck. Let's go. So I just dropped the hair. And he's like, what'd you drop the hair for? There's somebody coming. I was like, well, I thought you were just saying hurry up and go because, you know.
Mm-hmm.
He was like, no, see if there's any more hair. He's like, it's probably no more hair. But my luck, there was more hair. And I still have the hair to this day. I got to put up. My dad said that he went back down there to that spot. And the trees were gone, like the logs, and the teepee forms were gone. And yeah, so like that's the first time that I've ever seen like full facts as far as a Sasquatch or a Bigfoot, because who has 18-inch feet and walks out in the woods barefoot and with hair in the print?
Right.
You know?
And this area is not like next to by your description, it sounds like you had to work to get out there. It wasn't like where people always go, or is it a real frequented place?
Well, well, not that area. It's not a real frequented place.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, because I was actually walking along the wood line.
Yeah.
You know, because the teepee form were actually inside the woods themselves. Mm-hmm. But like I said, like the what looked like how I can describe it is an entrance to a forest.
Mm-hmm.
That was along the wood line.
Okay, I got you.
So
when he went back, all of those TP forms were now gone or broken down or whatever.
They said they were gone. The
Mm-hmm.
the logs that I was telling you about, they weren't there either.
Wow.
And yeah, so I mean it. You don't just see stuff like that every day.
Yeah, right. That's curious. I wonder what the situation was. If they were like, nope, somebody found our spot, and so they have to pack up and move, and do they drag these logs around with them? Of course, people find these, quote unquote structures quite often. But what's curious is, do they remain after that fact, or after people find them? If it is indeed Bigfoot doing them, do they kind of dismantle them and then take them somewhere else? And what purposes do they serve? And since it's not like a regularly frequented area, you have to wonder, well, a lot of people or some people may say, well, it's just somebody hoaxing. They were walking around playing a prank or something. But the further away you get from normal civilization, the less likely that someone's going to wear an 18-inch print and stomp around in some forest area with the hopes that maybe someone will stumble on it, It just doesn't make sense.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Well, now this was it was kind of a standalone experience for you then, right? Like it happened, and had you been before this, did you believe in Bigfoot, or was this the moment that you started believing, or what was your opinion?
I mean, kind of, it's just, I like to see to believe, and that right there was seeing. I mean, because like you said, who just walks around like that in a forest, like, I don't think people do that. And if they do that, they got a twisted mind. Like, oh, well, I'm going to fool some people.
Hello?
Mulder, it's me. Where have you been? I've been trying your cell all day.
I was out squatching.
What?
Bigfoot hunting. Had my phone turned off.
Did you have any luck?
No, that's not really the point. I just had to get away from the madness for a little while. Seems this past year all I've done is watch the news and worry that the country's gone insane. I had to get out to nature, where it's simple and uncomplicated, where it's just you and the elements, and possibly a cryptozoological simian-like hairy humanoid with enormous feet.
I think you just like saying squatching.
All right, everybody, and now in the interview we are bringing on Harry, who is James' father. Harry, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Oh, it's great to have you here, and I'm glad you were able to make this work. So you both had a pretty incredible experience, and would you mind telling us what happened?
Well, it's been several years ago. I've got a spot I fish down on the lake, and I was driving through there one day by myself, and on the way to the lake, I looked over in the timber and I saw some teepees. They looked like some kid had made some teepees over there. And I was thinking, wow, I says, I haven't saw that before. So I drove on down and went fishing. I think I had my wife with me. I don't remember. And then I got to thinking about that, and probably 2 or 3 weeks later, James came down to my house and to our house, and I told him about the teepees that was in the timber, and he says, they could be, like what maybe the Sasquatch built or whatever. And I kind of thought, could be. So, but it looked too good, for just somebody out in the middle of nowhere. So anyways, several weeks later, James came down, and I took him down there at the spot. Matter of fact, we went fishing, and I went on down to the lake, and we was, I found another different spot to fish. And, anyways, we was sitting there fishing, and he turned around. He says, "Dad, you see what I see?" I says, "What?" I said, I says, "No." And I turned around, and there was 2 logs. They had to have been 12 to 16 feet long. And they was standing not quite straight up, but they was probably 12 foot apart, from one bottom to the other. And it was right next to the timber. And James, he says, "You know what that looks like?" I says, "Well," I said, "it could be, but, then I got to looking, the lake on the other side of the lake, several years, it'd been like in the 80s, they had a sighting, PFRO, of a Bigfoot or Sasquatch over that way, which had been probably, I don't know, 5 or 10 miles, something like that.
Wow.
So, he says, "You come down here fishing by yourself?" I says, "Yeah, I do." Even at night, I'll go down there and go fishing by myself. I usually take a pistol along with me, but at least I go fishing. But anyways, he saw, on the way down there, James saw, I showed him them teepees, and he says, "Dad, I'm going to go up and look and see if I can find them again." So I sat down there and fished, and he went up there, and he came back down, and you could tell he was upset. He says, them things look just like teepees, like some." I says, they do." I said, "Don't they?" He said, "Yeah, they do." So he walked around there a while, and I don't really remember when he found the track or not. I don't know if it was the same day or not. Yeah, it was the same day. And so he got a picture of it, and then probably that very next day, I brought my wife with me, and James came along. I think just 3 of us. And he probably told you about the time it was like one way in and one way out. So there was cars, coming down there, that was wanting to fish. And I says, "You didn't find no tracks." I said, "Yes, I did." So anyways, we take off in my pickup and we go down there, and I park 50 yards from where the track was. And anyways, my wife and him get out, and they go over and look at it. My wife goes, "Harry, you ought to see this. You ought to see this print." So I get out and walk down there, and about that time, I'm looking back down there, and they got a tape measure and all that. And about that time, he says, "Look at all this hair." And I says, "Grab some," so.
Right.
So I guess he grabbed some, and about that time, this truck was coming down the road, and I was afraid they was going to pull over and see, to ask what was wrong, so. Sure. So I told James, I says, "Come on, let's go, let's get out of here." So I knew he'd got some hair, from that track, and then I think my wife put it in the safe for a while, and then put it in a pill bottle, put it in her safe, and then I know when but it was and James says, "Do you still go fishing down there by yourself?" I says, "Yeah." I still go down. Wow. I still go down there. Okay. I don't really like fishing at night because I don't ever see anybody else down there, Right. But I do. And so after that, it is kind of spooky kind of down there at night, get it right around dark. It's kind of spooky because there's nobody else around there for a long ways.
Right.
So and then going on probably a year later, which would be we went down to the Bigfoot conference around Springfield, Missouri, and the old boy that's got the 400.
Yeah.
we was over talking to him, and James told him that he had some hair. I don't know if he told you that or not.
No, I don't know.
He said he had some hair that he got out of a track, and I guess that old boy was asking if he wanted it. James says, "Yeah, I want it." I'm not going to give it to you. So
Now,
other than that, though, but I mean, it's there's several spots around down there, you know, that's kind of there's the when you're sitting there, or just even, you know, just sitting there, you feel it feels kind of strange down there. And the funny thing about it was this has probably been about a year ago when we saw the tracks. My wife and I, not more than probably a month ago, maybe 2 months ago, I drove down there again because I hadn't fished there since then. And we drove down there, and I walked the edge of the lake, about a quarter mile south and a quarter mile north. And, you know, the teepees aren't there anymore. They're gone. Everything, the logs aren't even up in the air anymore. They're gone.
oh,
Everything that we had saw is gone, like somebody just cleaned it out.
wow. Okay. You know,
But I walked all the way down to that cove down there. You know, I thought maybe I could see some tractions. I didn't see nothing.
yeah, that's kind of funny because just in my own experience, my good friend and co-host on the shows, the live shows, he also produces the podcast, Don, and we checked out a structure up here, and it was pretty impressive. It was more dome-like, but it was built around like a bent over sapling, like a 6-inch diameter sapling that was perfectly bent over, and then there was all these other branches that were rudimentarily woven in, you know, to create this dome structure, and it was really impressive. I put the picture up on the Instagram for the Paranormal Portal, but or some pictures. But after we checked it out, and we brought another Bigfoot researcher with us, Cindy Goodbrake, and we checked it out. After that time, slowly that thing just fell into disrepair. Like suddenly, nothing was coming back there, and I don't know if that's by virtue of just the scent of people may push them away from those spots, or what. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, I've watched enough shows, you know, that
Sure.
that can happen because I don't know. It was strange. The TP structures weren't even there. They was I don't know. They was gone. You know, there's nothing there.
So
even the logs by the water, they weren't even standing up anymore. They weren't there.
So they were missing, or they were just laying down now?
Well, I only live about 15 minutes from there. I mean, I can drive down there and look again.
Sure. Okay. Yeah,
But,
I'm just kind of curious if they would remove every trace of it, or if they just let them fall, kind of like what we experienced, where now it's not even recognizable as a structure anymore. It's just this pile of stuff. And, you know, so I'm wondering, did they
there are some researchers around where we live, where I live, that I saw, you know, like at Walmart parking lot. I saw their sticker in their car, and whether it means they are or not, I don't, you know.
Right.
But I have been on another. It's a Sasquatch. It's Missouri Sasquatch is what it is.
Okay. Sure.
And I have talked to people on there, you know, told them some stuff, you know, and I didn't tell them where I live, you know, 'cause there's people from all over the world get on that.
Yes, that's very true.
But several people have asked me about, you know, about where they all were, you know, what had happened and all that. And I didn't tell them like I'm telling you, but I, you know, kind of hinted something, you know, and they asked me, well, were they here and there? And I said, you know, I didn't tell them just exactly where it was.
Sure. Yeah, you're right. Sometimes if you put that information out there, they just come in like sharks on, chummed water.
Yeah, because I know a gal that's the curator of the Civil War battlefield. And I asked her one time, "You ever have ghost hunters come out here?" She says, "Oh, all the time, but I never let them do it."
Yeah, absolutely. Especially if it's a place that, you're checking out. The more people that are in there, the more it basically contaminates it. It becomes kind of akin to a crime scene. You just, the police tape those things off for a reason, because everybody wants to go in and have a look, and then it changes everything. So, I don't think it's much different in these situations, that in order for it to remain the way you found it, you got to keep it a secret. It's, it's kind of, I guess, kind of unfortunate, but you can't blame people for being curious and wanting to come in and see what they think, I mean, it's just
right.
Human nature, but you're right. Most people, when they find locations like that, they keep them pretty hush hush, because they just want to see what changes over time and how it changes and such. But I just think there might be something to that when there's a scent that's introduced that they know is not them, then I think they may very well just abandon it or even tear them down. Mm-hmm. That's really an interesting thing. So did you guys ever see a physical creature there, or what might have been a creature? Any strange things like that?
I never did.
Okay.
I mean, it's you get around there, and it's kind of just, you got to feel. I get a feeling, of
mm-hmm.
there, when you see structures like that. I never heard anything there.
Okay.
Because you gotta, being as I'm from Missouri, you gotta, Missouri, it's a show me state. That's what it is. It's called the show me state.
Sure.
And, so I just, no, I never heard one. Now he might have, but I didn't, because I was over there, he went through the timber, I think, and everything, but I didn't, because it was one of those things, times where we just didn't take off in the timber looking around. I mean, I've been in there mushroom before. But,
okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oddly enough, the structure that was found that we checked out was because the people that were in the area were mushroom hunting as well. So I think you stumble onto things, and surprisingly, it was extraordinarily well camouflaged. Like, if you weren't right on top of it, you would never have seen it. And I think those things are pretty powerful and amazing.
Well, I do a lot of mushroom hunting all by myself.
Oh, geez.
And the way to find them, the way I find them, is you got to walk wherever everybody stops. You got to walk another half mile or further back in there.
Sure. Yep.
And that's how I find stuff that is. I've saw structures before, but I didn't know what they was, until I really got to thinking about them. But
right.
Yeah, but I know I've been in spots to where I wouldn't even walk in there by myself.
Wow. Yeah.
So
now,
like 2 or 3 spots right now, I wouldn't.
Right. When you're talking about the feeling in that area, does it feel like you're being watched, or does it just feel uneasy? Can you explain that a little bit?
Well, I get to feeling uneasy, and I know where I go, certain spots, that it just feels like somebody's watching you sometimes,
Mm-hmm.
And I know when I've been mushroom hunting myself, I've heard knocks. And, I didn't even think anything about it. I just kept on going. And when you mushroom hunt, you more look on the ground. You don't look ahead of you or above you or beside you or that way.
Sure.
So if there actually was something there, now, the last couple of years now, I have been looking more left and right and up and down now than what I never used to do that, but I do now.
Now, that's another question, Harry. Before all of this happened at that fishing spot, were you already a believer by that point, or at least thinking there was a possibility, or what was your position?
Well, years ago when the the first Bigfoot show come out, when was it, in California? I watched that when it first come out.
Mm-hmm.
And I was probably, I'm 67 now, so I was probably maybe 17, 18 years old.
Okay.
Anyways, I had watched that, and I didn't even think anything about it, until later. I'd saw shows, before, and movies, and later on, there was several times, I got to thinking, well, they could be real.
Mm-hmm.
I always thought they was real, but
yeah,
I was talking to a good friend of mine one time, and a real, very, very good friend. He was kind of high up in the city,
Mm-hmm.
And I asked him, I said, do you believe in them Bigfoot? He says, why you ask me that? I says, well, I just thought I'd ask you, Ben, we're friends. He says, yeah, I believe in him. This guy was probably 75 or 80 years old then.
Oh, yeah.
And he says, yeah, my wife and I've got some pictures of some tracks. He says, they're over 30 years old. I says, you do? He says, oh, yeah. It took them a while to find them, so I've got the pictures, on my phone, but you want to hear the story about it?
Sure. I mean, yeah, I'd love to hear anything you guys want to share.
Okay. So he was telling me, he's not with us anymore, he's passed, but he was telling me one day he worked at a rock quarry, and when his boss had him clean the place up that night, smooth the roads out again and all that, because they'd been going in and out there,
Mm-hmm.
getting rock and everything. And he said he parked the loader and, smoothed everything out. And he locked the gate and went home. He said he come back in the morning. He went to get on his loader, and he said there was tracks from the top of the hill. They went around his loader, and whoever walked around his loader, and it headed towards the timber. There's kind of a swampy in there.
Mm-hmm.
It's probably about a mile from the river. And I said, did you go see where they went? He said, no. And, he told me it was a big deal like 30 years ago. He said the sheriff come out there. He said there was a lot of people out there looking at them tracks.
Mm.
And then he also told me that there was an old man around there. I didn't know him, but he knew him. He was saying he saw tracks on a creek several miles from there. And he knew there was one around there.
Wow.
So I'd never really talked to anybody around there about that other than him.
Yeah. But that was probably back when people really didn't talk about it anyway, yeah?
Oh, no, they didn't talk nothing about it. But his boy even knew about it. He said, oh, yeah, Dad's got pictures and everything,
Wow.
So I've got the pictures on my phone with the tape measure and all that stuff.
How long were the tracks? Do you remember?
I think 13 inches.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's
But, there was more of a flat. They weren't where the foot divides, where they call it was a flat looking track.
Okay, sure. Yeah, they got that hinge in the middle of their foot that kind of kicks up the dirt.
And I looked on the internet, if there were tracks like that. There are some tracks that are flat. I don't know if it's because of the older they are.
Yeah. Well, I know the Patty tracks were real flat from the Patterson-Gimlin film. I see recreations of them, or not recreations, but copies of them, and they're very flat. I mean, it looks like it stepped into powder, just flat-footed, and then stepped out. There isn't a lot of that variation in it. It looks like stomping, but incredible detail on them.
Well, I thought, why in the world 35 years ago, it's been 36 years by now, why in the world 36 years ago would somebody get and make feet and walk down through that rock quarry out in the middle of nowhere, just around a loader and go towards the timber.
Yeah, exactly.
You still on for dinner tomorrow night?
Yeah, I'll see you then. Hey, Scully, I ever tell you about the time I found a Sasquatch footprint in the mud?
Yeah, you
It's
did.
35 years ago.
Mulder, I've heard this before.
On the banks of the mighty Go River in beautiful British Columbia, Scully. Scully.
You had said that you have several other kinds of experiences as well. Would you like to share some more things that you've seen and experienced?
Sure. Like I say, I do a lot of mushroom hunting by myself and hunting by myself.
Mm-hmm.
I years ago, I'd say 8 years ago, I was mushroom hunting, and I met a buddy of mine over at a spot. We was going to walk this one spot, and I never had been all the way back in there before. And so we take off walking. It's probably a quarter mile from where we parked at. He took his truck, I took mine, and we parked in the same parking lot. I told him, I said, well, let's just meet over at this creek, He said, okay. And probably a quarter mile through there, it was probably a good mile to where we was going to walk. I never had walked it before, so I told him, I says, well, I kept seeing him through the timber, and all of a sudden I looked over there and he was gone, and I was thinking, where in the world did he go? So I hollered for him, no, and I never did hear him, so I just kept on walking,
Mm-hmm.
And I got to walking at a spot I'd never been before. And the scenery around there just looked weird, like it was a darker, I don't know, in the air it was darker. And I mean, I got a feeling that come up on me, like I got scared.
Mm.
I've never been scared before. And there was a big tree where I turned around. I didn't take time to even look what was behind that tree. I mean, I turned around and I left.
Wow.
And I hightailed it out of there. But it's pretty swampy in there where I walk. You got to have rubber boots, them big tall rubber boots.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's probably where I hunt at. That's not too far from the main river, where I mushroom hunt at.
Sure.
And another spot I go to, I still go there to this day. Another spot I go to is I've heard knocks in there, but I never thought anything about it until here in the last couple of months.
Isn't that the way it is, though? I mean, I in my own experience, I'd been in these woods my whole life, and I didn't think much of it. And when you don't know what to look for, I think it's real easy to pass right by this stuff and not even bat an eye, just because it's the woods. You just kind of accept that things are different there. But once you start hearing about the signs and the things that may indicate those presences, suddenly that stuff just jumps out at you. It's like, wait, that's not one woodpecker pecking one time. That's louder, and it sounds more robust, and tree breaks, for instance. And once I knew what to look for, going back up into those woods, I was like, oh wow, there's several of these things up here, and I would never have known to look for them before.
Well, some of the spots I mushroom hunted in, they're old coal pits.
Mm.
There have been people back in there for years and years and years, and that's where I like to go. You got to walk down in the center of it. I mean, you can climb to the top, but I've even walked next to the river, and I had about a 6-foot spot between the river and a pit. It's kind of it was kind of dangerous, and I wish I never would have done it, but I did it now. I can't swim that well.
Oh, no.
But, but I mean, I had another friend that was fishing there one night. Something scared him so bad. He was fishing. Something scared him so bad. He didn't even mess with his tackle box. He just picked his poles up. They were still in the water, and he took off.
He was just done. Yeah.
Oh yeah, he took off and never went back.
I think there are just things in these wildlands that we just don't understand, and Bigfoot would certainly be one of them. But I think there's other things in there too. And
yes,
once you start hearing the different stories and experiences that people have, it really makes you look at those places quite a bit differently.
Well, you're right. And a lot of people won't tell you about them. They won't tell you what they saw or heard.
Right. Yeah.
Because I don't think they trust you.
Sure.
That's just like the other day I was talking to an old boy that I've known for several years, and it's down at another lake. Mm-hmm. And the way he talked, this guy's got to be 80 plus, I'd say. The way he talked, he was saying, you wouldn't believe what's out here in the timber at night. I thought, what in the world's that guy saying that for?
Right.
Because a friend of mine one night was coming home, and he said he hit a bear. I said, a bear? He says, yep. It did. It smashed in front of his car in. And I says, you sure it was a bear? He says, well, I'm not positive, but it was black, and it was moving fast.
Wow.
He never did find it. And that's probably 45 minutes from where I live. So
it's kind of a hot spot around there, yeah?
Yeah, I said, can't think of his name. He has Sasquatch, the ferry.
I'm sorry, the what?
He's around he's in Missouri. He's got a show himself. I can't think of his name. Sasquatch Theory, does that sound right? Yeah, that's it.
Oh, okay. I guess I'm not familiar with that show, but okay. Yeah.
But his mainly is in Missouri.
Oh, okay.
But he has a lot of stuff on his too. But yeah, but when I go out here in another month or so when my foot heals up, I'm going to take a camcorder along with me this time, and I'm going to go back. That one spot I went to, I'd kind of like to take somebody with me, when I go back, because
sure,
I really don't want to go back there myself. And I wouldn't tell them why.
Just call it Operation Human Shield.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I have learned something from a lot of the shows. You don't even want to shoot at one of them.
No. Yeah. I mean, that's certainly worked out real badly for some people. And, other people talk about they know they shot one, but it didn't seem to phase it even a little. And other ones say they just run off and then they get pushed out, just
right.
The whole intimidation things. And those are gotta be pretty frightening because, again, these things are so at home in these incredibly wild places, whereas we're just visiting,
Yeah. It's been probably 4 years ago. I went down to Texas fishing.
Mm-hmm.
And where we was fishing, afterwards we did a hog hunt. And anyways, these guys, young guys, they had side by sides. They had like 4 dogs with them. We was going out there getting hogs and everything, for hogs. We got 4 of them that day, and we came back. And I all of a sudden, out of my mouth, I said, "You guys ever seen Bigfoot down here?" And where we was staying at, that one kid says, "Yeah, the owner's son saw one."
Mm.
That was down. I can't think the name of the lake we was at.
Wow. Yeah, I don't think, as we were talking before the show, I don't think there's many places in the continental U.S. and abroad that they aren't. They just seem to be very well adapted to be anywhere and everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
That to me is so incredible.
Yeah. but there you go. Down in Texas, I'm a hog hunter, and I asked somebody, about Bigfoot, and he says, yeah. And, I never got to talk to that guy either. I wish I would have thought, and went over and asked him. He might have, you never can tell. He might have slapped me for asking him something.
Yeah, you
I
don't
really
know.
didn't know him,
Yeah, he might not be as willing to share as he was with the other guy, but that's certainly the other takeaway from these stories is that these are the ones you heard of, and how many more are out there that people just chose never to share,
Oh, I know. I live real close to a lake, big lake.
Uh-huh.
And I mean, there's land in there that's just, people never go in there.
Right. Wow.
And I mean, even like, I used to live in Kansas.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, there's like I said, even around them old coal pits, there has been people back in there for years and years and years.
Right. Yeah.
And, I've walked quite a few of them over the years.
Sure.
And I wish I would have knew then what I know now.
Right.
I would have taken pictures of stuff, because I remember one time when I still lived over there, they said, "Oh, there's big cats over here by the river." I took off one day. I took my camera, and I walked and walked and walked. Never did find any big cat tracks.
Mm-hmm.
But they got to be there because there's too many people saw them.
Right. Yeah.
And you ask the game wardens, and they look at you like you're an idiot,
Yeah.
Because I knew one of the game wardens.
I don't think it's a real popular official position to have to say that there are these things in places like that. And I'm not sure why they wouldn't let people know, because you'd think, the inherent danger of not knowing, I think, is way bigger than knowing.
Yeah.
If you don't know and you start exhibiting behaviors that make you easy prey, then, that seems really foolish and nonsensical. But if you know, at least you can go in as an informed person. And I think that was Kerry Arnold's position too, of Bigfoot Odyssey. He was like, people have a right to know these things are out here. They have they have a right to know that when they're in the woods, they may very well be in close proximity to these other things. And then you make an informed decision. But if you're just out there and you don't know, I mean, how do you process that even? It's one thing to go in there with an idea, and another thing to be completely surprised,
Mm-hmm.
and the mess that does to a person's head. I mean, I've talked to so many witnesses that have come face to face with these things, and it's life changing. And Kerry was a great example. I mean, he was an avid outdoors person, and just loved hunting and fishing and all that stuff. And after his experience, it kept him out of the woods for maybe a decade or so. I mean, he just couldn't do it. He couldn't go back.
Well, now these days, now that I really don't like going in there myself, what I know more about it, but
sure,
I do it anyways. I'm not going to stay out of the woods. I'm gonna go back, because I went in there several times after I got scared to death, and I didn't tell any. I never told anybody about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I kept going in there, and I kept looking. And then I started looking.
Wow.
I started looking around.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, there's one spot I'd love to go back in there. I don't know. I'm going to have to take somebody with me.
Yeah. Well, and the other takeaway is that, look, I think they were probably, most likely they've been aware of your presence every time you're in their neighborhood anyway, but they didn't choose to do anything to you. And a person alone is the easiest prey. I mean, these things are so much more adept, and they could take you by surprise in any number of ways, but they don't. And I think that that's a powerful takeaway, is that, they could, but they don't. And generally speaking, I mean, I can't speak conclusively to that fact, but at least predominantly people go in and out. They might get spooked. They might hear some things and stuff, but for the most part, people are not, openly terrorized and stuff. They just, I guess if they get uncomfortable, they just kind of herd people out, and then it's business as usual. But I'm sure you've been watched many times, like especially when you've been feeling it. Like I was in this area where you said a few times through this interview, I knew something felt wrong. And I think that's our intuition kicking in, going, oh, you're being stalked. I think it's just a survival mechanism that's built into us from climbing up the food chain for eons, and we just know. And those are probably very valid moments where something was watching you, but just keeping an eye on what you're doing. And then when you left, it was fine.
Yeah. Well, yeah. But usually when I go in there, I'll have a walking stick. I don't carry a gun with me when I mushroom hunt.
Oh, sure.
But I mean, I'll have a walking stick and I'll use it.
Sure.
If say like a rattlesnake or a copperhead or something.
Right.
I'll move them out of the way or whatever. But other than that, though, but I'm still going to do it. That's not going to scare me, off.
Yeah.
But there are several spots, and I know the house. Now, this is a different subject altogether. The house we lived in, James probably didn't tell you about that.
What's that?
When we moved in a house, it's been probably 20, 25 or 26 years. I met one of the neighbors, and he laughed at me. He goes, "You guys bought a haunted house."
Oh, wow.
I said, "Oh, boy."
Did you believe in that stuff before?
Yeah, kind of.
Okay.
Kind of.
Yep.
But
so what happened there?
Well, our dog, it didn't start with the dog, but I remember our back door, the house was built in like 1890. And I think it was moved in there. But our dog, he'd always act funny. The cat we had would act, his eyes would grow like saucers. And the strange thing about it, that's when the ghost hunters come out years ago. You probably remember that.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, so my wife, she got a recorder. We got a digital recorder. I said, "You got to see if there's anything in there just for the heck of it." And she heard stuff before. I worked construction. I was gone most of the time, so a lot of stuff happened when I was gone. But she was saying one night, she was asking if her dad was there or if they knew anybody that was in the house, and they said her name. I heard it.
Oh, wow.
It said my wife's name
into the recorder. Okay.
In the digital record.
Wow. Jeez.
And then we was I remember we was in bed one night. It was probably 3:30 in the morning, 4:00 in the morning, and we had an attic up there, and we was laying in bed, and all of a sudden it sounded like something was coming down the stairs and hit the door, that goes in the living room.
Mm-hmm.
I told my wife, I says, "Get up and see what that was."
Nice. Okay.
She says, "Why are you asking me?" I said, "I'm not getting up. I'm too tired." So, just like in the movies. Yeah. So we went back to sleep, and we woke up that morning, and something had taken. I was doing a little construction up there in the attic, sheetrock and everything.
Mm-hmm.
We had a half a sheet of sheetrock at the bottom of the stairs, a suitcase, and I forget, but that was at the bottom. That's what made all that noise.
Oh, so it moved all that stuff down the stairs?
Yes, threw it down the stairs.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, I know.
that's a get out now moment, huh?
Yeah, that's been on the TV thing in Springfield. She put that on there a couple years ago. But also, our back door, it was an old style back door. Had glass all the way,
Mm-hmm.
And you could be sitting there in the front room, and the door would open up and close, and you says, "Come on in." There was never anybody ever there. Never.
Oh, wow. Jeez.
So I told my wife, I says, "I'll fix that." I put a new door on it. It still did it.
No kidding.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah. But like I say, she saw a lot more stuff than I did. I just heard stuff, I didn't see anything.
Was she at stay at home, or did she also?
Yeah, she worked too, but I worked construction out of town all the time. I was either up in Minnesota or Iowa or wherever,
Right. Okay.
Yeah, but she's got some good stories.
Wow. Well, you have to get her to come on the show too. I mean, we can have the whole family here.
There you go.
That'd be outstanding. But I tell you what, you guys have been amazing, and thank you so much for making this work today and coming on as well. It's been phenomenal meeting you, Harry, and you, James, as well. And I really appreciate you guys both making time to come here.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for your time, Brent.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
It's my pleasure. And if you guys remember more things you want to come on and share, let me know. We can always have you back.
Would you be interested in talking to that friend of mine if I can get him to call you?
Absolutely. Yeah. Please. If he's
got a lot of stuff. He's got a lot. I don't have nothing compared to him.
Well, and no pressure, but if he's willing to and would like to do it, I'd love to have him on the show as well.
Okay.
Well, perfect, gentlemen. Well, thank you again for the time. And again, any new stuff comes up, let me know.
Okay, will do. Thanks
a
lot.
You guys have a wonderful day. Thank you, James, for making this happen, brother.
Thank you. Appreciate your time.
Oh, anytime, guys. All right, guys, thank you so much for joining us here on tonight's show. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Please feel free to follow us on Facebook, facebook.com/Paranormal Portal Radio, as well as finding us on Twitter. We're on Twitter at Paranormal Portal, Portl, and we'd love to have you stop by our YouTube page and subscribe and check out our shows there. We got hundreds of shows, Journeys into the Paranormal Portal, so I hope you'll check it out, guys. We're over there at youtube.com/Paranormal Portal, so hope to see you guys soon. We'll be back, of course, for more podcasts in the coming days. So we love you all. Be good, be kind, be nice, take care of each other, help each other out, find the magic in every day, and remember to laugh as much as you can.
So that's the truth? We're not alone in the universe? But nobody likes us?
It's okay, Mulder. There'll always be more X-Files.
No. They give us all the answers to everything. Even Sasquatch. No! It's not true! It can't be! Ugh!